Hello friends. So now let's start with what is MVC. So MVC is a pattern that divides software into three interconnected parts, which are a model, view, and a controller. So MVC pattern forces the separation of concern. Separation of concern is a design pattern, and it means that domain knowledge, domain model, and controller logic are decoupled from the UI. As a result of this, the maintenance and testing of the application becomes very simple. Stands for. Hopefully everyone is aware, but for the sake of this tutorial we will go by M means model, which means it is holding the business layer. View, which is the UI layer that generates the output. And C stands for controller, which is the main component, and the role of it is to handle the user input and communicate with the model and supply the model data to the view, which will be shown as an output. So how different is MVC framework different from ASP.NET MVC framework? Well, yes, there is a lot of difference. First of all, MVC framework is having a different architectural pattern, and not necessarily ASP.NET MVC framework is following the entire application architecture. So ASP.NET MVC framework is not a pure implementation of MVC framework, and it is an open source framework built on top of Microsoft.NET framework, which is used to develop application that enables clean separation of code. So let's talk about model in ASP.NET MVC. So the model in ASP.NET MVC can be broken down into several different layers. Let's say a view model or an object or a presentation layer. This layer contains simple objects or complex objects which are used to specify strongly typed view. These objects are used to pass data from controller to strongly typed view and vice versa. The classes for these objects can have specific validation rules that are defined by using data annotations available in .NET. So typically these classes have those properties which you want to display on corresponding view or an end page. The second layer can be a business layer. This layer helps you to implement your business logic and validations for your application. This layer makes use of the data access layer for persisting data into database. Also, this layer is directly invoked by the controller. To do so, the input data and send back to the view. The third layer can be data access layer. This layer provides objects to access and manipulate the database of your application. Typically, this layer is made by using ORM tools like Entity Framework or an Hibernate, etc. Now let's talk about what is view in ASP.NET MVC. The view is only responsible for displaying the data that is received by the controller. As a result, it is also responsible for transforming a model or models into UI, which provide all the required business logic and validation to the view. By default, views are stored in views folder of an ASP.NET MVC application, but this can be changed. Now let's talk about the controller in ASP.NET MVC. The controller in ASP.NET MVC responds to HTTP request and determines the action to take based upon the content of incoming request. It receives the input from users via the view, then processes the user's data with the help of model and passing the results back to the view. By default, the controllers are stored in the controllers folder in ASP.NET MVC application. Again, this can be changed. As we said, ASP.NET MVC is quite extensible to our needs. So this is an overview of what is ASP.NET MVC and where does it stand compared to the MVC architecture. Let's dive into deep let's dive deep into the next sessions, which will deal with creating an application. How we will see a live code walkthrough of how view, model, and controller are interconnected. What is the way that the information is being passed, and several other concepts which is available in MVC.NET framework.